Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Can-Am Missing Project. This is Huck L. Berry, the executive producer of the show. She's a good girl too. You're a really good girl. Yeah, a good girl. Let me take that collar off for you. You don't need that. Yeah. Yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah. You're a good girl. Yes, a good girl. He's a good girl, yes, sir. Oh, yeah, that's a big yawn. You've been sleeping a little today, huh? I love you, too. All right, folks. We've got a good segment for you today. So, in my book, Missing 411 Law, that's the book cover. It's really the first time I wrote a book about all three types of disappearances. Oh yeah, three types: land, air, water. And they all encompass that missing 411 profile. Because if you think about it, why should it be restricted to just land? Excuse me. It should be anywhere. Whether you're flying, fishing, on a boat, right? And I've written about some disappearances off boats that make no sense at all. And I know a lot of people can analyze it away and say, well, you know, the person fell over. Yeah, well, possible. Likely, no. Probable, no. Anything's possible. So write a book. Why write a book if anything is possible, right? You got to be that critical thinker that I ask you to be to make the linkage come together. Now, you can watch my three movies: Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, Missing 411 The UFO Connection, all for free right now on Tubi, Tubi. Watch them as many times as you want. Keep them playing in the background. It all helps us. Now, Missing 411 The UFO Connection. Even if you're not a UFO fanatic, interested party, go watch the movie, please. I lay down facts. Facts brought to you by some of the best investigators that I know. One of the scenes in that movie deals with a group of laborers working for Weyerhaeuser Corporation in Washington State. And Weyerhaeuser goes in and buys these huge swaths of land and cuts all the trees off and then replants, and 30 years later they go down and do it again. Well, what these guys were doing is a group had come in and cleaned the hillside after they had logged it, and these guys were planting small trees in the ground on this hillside way up above this valley. And they see a big herd of elk down below in the valley. And then they see this thing kind of flying around the mountain of this valley and coming into the valley. Below them, your standard UFO disc. And it settles right over the herd. The herd scatters except one, and it's like frozen. And then it picks the elk up, and there's no cables or anything. It picks the elk up and leaves. Why is that important? Well, for a long time, I've heard from other people that whatever these things are, they're monitoring our ecosystem. Now, why is that elk important? Later on in the movie, I give you the story of a man that was elk hunting in Wyoming that disappeared. He reappears, and they find him 2 days later, 3 days later. And he's a man who had TB scars on his chest, on his lungs. And he had had all kinds of medical issues with it during his life. Without going into extreme details, the aliens see him hunting these elk. They put him on the craft. He's on the craft. All of a sudden he sees this 3 elk on the craft. and they don't want him. They send him back. And I didn't know what was coming when I'm interviewing. His name is Carl. He was 91 years old, sharp as a tack when I interviewed him at his home in Wyoming. And he's just telling his story, rambling along. And then he says, and then they dropped me on the ground. I go, what do you mean they dropped you on the ground? He goes, yeah, they dropped me. I hit the ground and I rolled down a hill. That was my epiphany moment of something I've never heard anywhere from anyone in the UFO field about how they sometimes drop abductees. Carl said he actually hurt his shoulder and he had to get it looked at. Well, there was a lot of physical evidence to that case. And UFO and abductee researchers said it's one of the few cases in the world ever that there was physical evidence. Because when he went back to the hospital, he didn't have any tuberculosis scars on his chest. Doctor said it was impossible. And there's a whole bunch of other evidence that's explained in the movie, and I wish you'd watch. So why am I telling you these stories now? Because I'm going to tell you a story about a Wyoming hunter. The story was in Missing 411 Law. And how that story intertwines with everything I've just told you. Now, one of the people that's in the UFO Connection movie is a good friend of mine named Ruben Uriarte. And Ruben is the director of the San Jose MUFON chapter. I've known him for 25 years. Extremely credible man. Extremely. Bilingual. And he was brought in to interview some of the laborers that saw the UFO fly in and pick up the elk in Washington. Well, Ruben and another man wrote a book called Aliens in the Forest. You need to read it. Aliens in the Forest. And when Ruben wrote the book, he got a hold of me. He said, Dave, you got to know the story. And he goes, it falls in line with what you're doing. Anyhow, in the fall of 1964, there was a man named Don Shroom. And he was employed by a missile manufacturer for the military, private company. In his spare time, he liked to hunt, he liked to bow hunt. Well, he went to an area called Cisco Grove, about 25 miles west of Lake Tahoe off Interstate 80. So let's just say you're going to Lake Tahoe from Sacramento. If you take the northern route to go to the North Shore, you take Highway 80. If you go the southern route, you take Highway 50. Highway 50 is this 2-lane meandering road that sometimes can take forever to get to Tahoe. Trust me, I've made this trip 200 times at least because my folks had a cabin up there. Highway 80, 2 lanes each direction to highway, freeway, nice road, get you up there quick. Now, I've written about a lot of stories about this area between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. A lot of weird things go on there. In fact, in the interview with Joe Hauser, we talked about the Desolation Valley Wilderness area, which is in that zone between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe, where Joe had Bigfoot sightings. Coincidence, I guess. So he went to this area called Cisco Grove. And he was hunting, and he comes across 2 alien humanoid type figures, very similar to what Carl encountered, and they chase him up a tree. They try to get him out of the tree, and weirdly, they can't figure it out, but it's a very involved story that you need to read the book for. I'm just giving you the bare bones basics here. But Don, when he was eventually found, had memory loss, doesn't remember everything that happened, but remembered a lot of it. So keep that story in the back of your mind. Now, the story in my documentary, The UFO Connection with Carl, Experience in Wyoming. Here's another story from Wyoming. The guy's name was Craig Guymon. He went missing October 6, 1996. He was 47 years old. He lived in Wyoming. seasoned hunter, seasoned outdoorsman, knew his way around, never got lost, was with buddies that he had hunted with dozens of times before. They were with their own horses that they had raised in on ranches, etc. Kind of get the feeling that these guys know what they're doing, been around the block, can take care of themselves. So he went with this group of friends to a place called Soda Lake. That's near Pinedale. It's just east of Pinedale in the Grosvenor National Wilderness Area. Now, a wilderness area. This is important to know, folks. You cannot ride a motorcycle, you cannot ride a bike, you can only ride your horse into a wilderness area and use your 2 feet. So, Soda Lake is east of Pinedale in the mountains there. If you ever get a chance, you go to that area east of Pinedale. It will take your breath away. Absolutely stunningly gorgeous. And some of the most bizarre stories I have ever written come out of that area. Well, one of Craig's friends said that they were hunting east of the lake. That is the area where high strangeness occurs. And if you look at a map of the area up there, there's hundreds of small lakes. And what has Dave said about that? The more lakes there are, the more chance that you're going to go missing. Just the way it is. There's something about a lot of lakes. It could be a lot of water, right? I've said that forever. So the guys are up there. Craig's bow hunting. And Craig took a shot at an elk. Remember UFO connection. The 2 incidents with elk. He shoots at an elk. He thinks he hit it. Well, now you got to go walk down the elk. You got to go find it. Sometimes, in fact, most times, they don't drop dead in the spot you hit them. And they leave a blood trail. You follow the blood trail, you get the elk, you got to clean it out, put them on your horse, take them home. Well, he goes in search of the elk. And that's something you do by yourself. Usually 2 guys don't go with you. Why? Because they don't want to clean the elk. Well, his friends wait an extraordinary amount of time and he didn't come back. And he doesn't yell for help. So they go looking for him. October 9th, 1996, Jackson Hole News. Quote, Guymon's friends alerted county law enforcement early Monday. They had 8 people on foot and an airplane looking for Guymon during the day. They later added search dogs to the effort. So the paper was a day behind reporting what actually happened. The point of that was they pulled in other hunters from around the area to help them. Let's say I'm out hunting. And a hunter says, hey, I lost my buddy. Could you help me look for him? Of course I am. Whatever hunting I'm doing, it's more important to go help somebody find someone and make sure that they're alive and they get out of there okay. Any hunter who wouldn't do that is a piece of garbage. So they get a bunch of hunters to help. On October 8th, that same day that they said they reported that, again, they're a day late and about 14 hours short. At 10:22 in the morning, members of the Teton County Sheriff's rescue team, pay close attention, folks, located Guymon's body 1 mile from where it was last seen. Now, fact number 1 that doesn't make sense. If his buddies are looking for him, and they're covering this area, and they're yelling for him, should have heard it. They should have found him, no doubt in my mind. Now here's how, this is the part that's going to blow your mind. Here's how it's explained by the Teton County Sheriff Roger Millward. Quoting him, it looks pretty certain he fell out of a tree. But we don't know what he was doing up there. Maybe he was scared and went up there to sleep. That's what he said. It might have been a bear chased him, but there's no indication of that. It looks like he was up there all night. What? Who goes in a tree to sleep? Oh, but that's not the end of the story. The next line, Guymon's boots, coat, and hat were still in the tree. What? Yeah, you heard that right. It's believed, the sheriff said, that he used his belt to hold him in place. The sheriff said that there's some signs that he even ate food in the tree. Under the tree, there were some candy wrappers, raisins, and a trail of trash and gear apparently fell after falling. Hunters in Wyoming, 99% are very clean. They're not going to dump their garbage on the ground because they treasure that atmosphere. So hunters, fishermen like I've done, if I'm eating a candy bar or something, I'll just stick the wrapper in my pocket. But if you turn me upside down, all that garbage would fall out of my pocket. Keep that in the back of your mind. The autopsy. Craig had several broken bones, including a broken femur. Femur, the big bone between your knee and your hip. You break that bone, you're not going anywhere. You don't even want to be moved. The pain is unbelievable. It'll be the biggest pain you ever had in your life. The coroner's opinion was the broken bones did not kill him. The coroner's opinion was he died of hypothermia. He was missing 2 days. So you got to figure, the first half of the first day, he's walking around looking for his elk, which was never found. So really, he's up in that tree for what they claim is 1 day and a full other day. You can see how this doesn't make sense. Now the facts. Facts are the only thing that's really important. Boots are found. One is in the tree and one is on the ground. Friends, do you know how hard it is to take boots off in a tree? Balancing yourself on a branch so you don't fall out and kill yourself while you're pulling your boot off. Why take your boots off while you're in the tree? Why take your coat off? His hat was still in the tree. Why would any cowboy take off his hat? They don't. Searchers were combing that area for 2 days. Craig knew that. Why not yell for help? Nobody ever heard a yell. Do you see where I'm going with this? Cold. If Craig was cold, you get out of the tree and you start hiking and you will warm up. But why be in the tree? Safety is with the other hunters and your horse. And he knew that. He's not going to stay in that tree, take his boots off, put his feet up, and take a nap like the sheriff implies. Local reports for local consumption. Obviously, that sheriff thinks the Wyoming residents are idiots. I don't care who you are. I'm sure that hunting group laughed their ass off at that guy. Excuse my bad language here. Now, this area that he was in is distinct, up and down valleys, east-west direction. He was familiar with hunting. He hadn't gotten lost before. Hard to imagine he even got lost. There was never mention other than they didn't find the elk. Remember Missing 411, the UFO connection. When Carl was taken, they took his elk. The UFO flew over the valley, it took an elk. Coincidence? I don't think so. The coroner stated that Craig had no significant medical issues and no mental health issues. If you've never met ranchers from Wyoming that are hunters and outdoorsmen, you're missing a treat. The reality of them, rough, tumble, self-sufficient, know the atmosphere, know their ground. Self-sufficient, I mean that. They take care of their own. I will say this. A cowboy doesn't take off his boots. A cowboy doesn't take off his hat. So, are there associations between Carl, Missing 411, the UFO connection, and Craig's disappearance? If you don't see that, I can't help you. The sheriff did say that below the tree, there were no tracks at all. No bear tracks, no mountain lion tracks, nothing. It's an important point. And he also found no scratch marks going up the side of the tree, which would show it was a cougar or a mountain or a bear. None. Now, if Craig had killed that elk, that would have been a dinner call for a grizzly bear or black bear. And strangely, there were none around, which is normal when these kind of things happen. I think it's important that everybody stay informed. Keep an open mind. I'm not trying to force anything down your throat. I'm trying to give you some unusual facts that all have linkage. Now, nobody's ever heard about this story about Craig Guymon. I happened to stumble into it over the tens of thousands of hours of research I've done on these cases. Nobody else did. Oh, you'll hear about it now on many podcasts. Will I get credit? Of course not. Now let's see the associations between what happened to Craig, what happened to Carl. So let's look at UFO sightings around Pinedale. June 6, 2006, 3 a.m. We're watching the Aquarid meteor shower, my dad and I, behind our home. But we watched it until 4:15 a.m. Then for some reason, this young boy says, a thought came into my head to look higher in the sky. He said he saw a group of disks move toward the Milky Way, leaving a triangular trail through the sky. He said they'd move for a few seconds and then stop, and this went on for several minutes. If you're watching in the sky with binoculars, or you're lucky enough to have night vision, and you see something move in a straight line that never deviates and never stops, 99 times out of 100, it's a satellite. Satellites do not stop in the sky. Satellites do not have flashing lights. Satellites move at a uniform pace, slowly and methodically across the sky. At different angles, they can come at any different time. July 13th, 2017. Man says he sees a star-like orb flashing colors. He says he's working on a drilling rig. Okay, so around Wyoming, there's a lot of oil wells. There's a lot of guys working on oil rigs. And in fact, Carl, in my 411 UFO connection, was working on a drilling rig during the day. And he took, the drilling rig gave him the day off. And that's why he went hunting that day. Quite a coincidence. So, this guy says, I'm working on a drilling rig. I have the night shift. I'm in just on the outskirts of Pinedale. Above the drilling rig, I see an orb flashing red, blue, and then white. It's stationary. He said he had worked there for 2 weeks straight. This was his 14th night, and then the next night was a night off. He said this thing was directly above the rig into him and flashing, and wasn't there the previous 13 nights. I've heard that story many times before. February 7th, 2026, Lander. So here's Pinedale. And then you have the Continental Divide running right here. Right on the other side is Lander, Wyoming. Oh, strange cases there, folks. It's one of the strangest disappearances I ever took was there. It's in my books. So, 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning, a man's coming home from a drill site. He sees two faint lights in the sky, shining very brightly. He said then another light appears and joins with the other two, and they form a loosely knit triangle. He said the triangle starts to rotate slowly. And he said he watched this for an hour. He said it didn't move across, but it just rotated. And that happened until 6:30 in the morning. Now, Wyoming has 442 UFO sightings on the books with National UFO Reporting Center. That is quite a few UFO reports for such a small population for a state. Sightings of any type are usually, the numbers are based on the number of people that live in the area, and the greater the chance that something's going to be seen. As an example, if you work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, you've got to sleep during the night. You're not going to be up in the middle of the night looking at a sky. So the people that see these things are astronomers or people who have an interest in the sky, but not the hard workers that are working Monday through Friday because they can't be up in the middle of the night. There's rationale behind this. Another one, December 25th, 2023. Sinks Canyon outside of Lander. An aura or haze formed around this circular bright light. And that light went from very bright to invisible quickly, and then did the same thing. They said that they saw one come over the mountain and it moved to join two others. They stayed there stationary for a while and then they moved together. That is not a satellite. No. Did you watch Missing 411 The Hunted? There's a story out of Utah. A group of men are in a trailer and they're up hunting goat, very high in elevation, right at tree line. One of the guys comes out of his trailer. You got to watch the movie. It's free to watch on Tubi. Comes out of his trailer and he's getting something out of the back of his truck. It's like 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, dark out, cold. And I interviewed this guy for like 2 hours. Great interview. I think you see maybe 15 minutes of it. He says that he's leaned over, and as he's leaned over, he goes, Dave, I just felt like something was watching me. They're in amongst trees. And he said, I come out of the bed of the truck, and I look up, and I said, his words, oh my God. What it was a giant triangle sitting about 80 feet above him, right at tree line. Right above him. He screamed. His other hunting partners came out, saw it. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. No noise, no wind, no nothing. They said it slowly moved away. And that's the poster in Missing 411 The Hunted. It's a good poster. So, I understand These things happen a lot, but people don't know where to report it to. That story I'm telling you about, we originally got it third hand from a friend of his hunting buddies. It took me like 3 days to track him down. Once I tracked him down, he was super friendly. He goes, I didn't think anybody cared. And then we got deep into the story. And there's part of that story is that someone disappeared very close to where they saw this triangle. Next one. February 16th, 2004, Shoshone National Forest near Lander. A family is out snowmobiling. Dad, mom, couple kids. They come up over a frozen lake. It's in February. And they see an 8-sided diamond-shaped object hovering above the frozen ice of the lake. They said that it would turn from green to blue to black to orange. And they said they watched this for several minutes until it left the area. And they said that nobody would believe it unless we were all here together. We were all here together. Water hovering above a frozen lake. I'm telling you, I wish people would start believing me. Next one, June 30th, 1967. This is the last one. In our backyard, as it starts, in Lander, they're having a sleepover. Bunch of kids. Directly above us, they see a red light flashing coming towards their yard from a distance. It comes and it hovers directly above their yard. About 2 minutes, no sound, nothing. Just hovering, flashing. Then 2 more flashing red lights join it. And they group together. Then they form a V shape. And they leave at such a high rate of speed, they said they could hardly see them leave. V shape. Remember the Phoenix Lights? Remember the V shape in the Phoenix Lights? If you don't, go back, Google Phoenix Lights and go look at an image of it. Well, that's my show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Craig's end was horrible. I wish I could understand what happened to that poor man, but I've got my ideas. I feed you the facts. I let you to come to your conclusions. I don't think he climbed up in that tree, took his coat, and used that as a pillow, and took his boots off. Friends, that is one of the most stupid stories I've ever heard. Sorry, Sheriff. I don't mean to demean you, but that's stupid. Be safe. Missing411.com is our website. Get hats, sweatshirts, books. Yes, you can get Missing 411 Law, LEW there. Don't buy our books on Amazon or anywhere else. You're going to get ripped off. They're charging between $150 and $200 for them, $25 on our website. Remember what I always say, folks. Be kind. Kindness is free. Paulides out.